Well, welcome everyone. My name is Rick Green. This is the Habits of Health class on Tuesday evenings. I am a certified health coach, and tonight we have Buddy Allen, Dr. Buddy Allen, who's going to be presenting. And we also have Carla Angel. And I would like to take a couple of seconds and introduce Carla because, as it is, she's been on a journey of her own. And so I would like to take a moment introduce her. And Carla, I'm going to go ahead and put your picture up here. And if you would please tell us a little bit about what's going on with you. Go ahead. I'm going to mute you. All right. Go ahead.
All right. Thank
you,
Rick and Carolyn, for inviting me on tonight. And I just wanted to share my story. I'm really excited to tell everybody about my story. I've started Take Shape for Life in February of 2014, and I have lost 111 pounds. I'm not even the same person. So before I started, my feet and ankles just ached from inflammation. I had massive allergies. I had fibromyalgia and sleep apnea, and pretty much everything hurt. And I was so beat down from dieting all those years and not making much progress that if anybody would hurt my feelings, I would just go and medicate myself by eating. And now I don't. I stand up for myself, and I don't hurt anymore. I don't even need my CPAP machine anymore. Yeah! That is so great. And but really, that is probably the best part. But some of my favorite parts are I can wear cute shoes. I went from a size 20 to a size 6, and it's really fun to shop now. That costs a lot more than the plan. So, so I'm on vacation this week, and I wanted to tell you that yesterday, my sister and friends and I went for a bike ride. And I haven't ridden a bike since I was a kid, pretty much. I think there was a little bit time in there in between, but I had to take it back because my knees hurt. And so we rode 7 miles yesterday, and I expected to wake up really stiff and sore this morning, and I didn't. I'm in good shape now. So it was so fun. I can't tell you how good it feels just to be able to have fun again, because I spent many years just coming home from work and sitting in the chair and watching TV and figuring that's all I had. So it feels good to be healthy. So I can climb the stairs now without pain or embarrassment. And now I'm happy inside too. I've always felt like a happy person, but now I can tell the difference because I just feel good. I want to get out there and share my story with everybody and help as many people as I can. And it's really rewarding to know that I'm helping others. And then when they call me and they're so excited about how much weight they've lost or how they feel, how they don't hurt anymore, or they're off medications, and makes me feel so good.
Well, that's a great story. Thank you, Carla. I really appreciate that. And without any further ado, I think we're going to have Buddy Allen come on and start talking to us about what we've got up next. So,
All
Buddy.
right, let me just figure out how to share my screen and pull up the right stuff here. All right, share my screen. And there we go.
All right.
I'm trying to mute.
All right. Well, Carla, that story was fabulous. In fact, I would say those are the stories right there that never ever get old. It's such an awesome thing to see folks like yourself, just like it's a whole new life and a whole new person, whole new smile, everything. And it's sad that so many people out there don't know that that's even a reality.
Yeah.
So to be able to, I mean, you have an incredibly powerful and compelling story to.
And I was one of them because I did not believe.
Well, and what we're talking about tonight, believe it or not, is kind of the reason why so many folks don't make it. Because tonight we're going to talk a little bit about why sometimes folks put forth so much effort and don't see any results. You know, our habits, in fact, I always like to start out our Habits of Health class with just helping people understand our habits are what make us who we are. And unfortunately, sometimes we have habits that are bad and we don't know that they're bad. We just don't understand how they're not serving us to accomplish the goals that we want. And really, to kind of paint that picture, how many people, and you know, blink if this has happened to you, have done a program or tried to diet and you're being really good and you're being disciplined and you're following it to a T and you think you're doing everything perfect, and then at the end of the week the scale, you feel like the scale should have moved about 35 pounds and it moves 1, maybe 2, or maybe not at all, and you're like, what the heck, I was so good. Doesn't make any sense. How come I didn't lose any weight? And you're like, I followed the diet the way it was supposed to or whatever, and you don't see it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of times that I've done it. I mean, I did it a handful of times, and you know, my weight loss story is nothing compared to yours. You know, a mere 20 pounds is all I lost. But just the same, I had tried things and been unsuccessful, thinking I was being really good and not seeing where I was making mistakes. And so that's kind of what we want to talk about tonight, is how do we make sure we're doing things in a way that are actually going to help us see that there is actual results out there that we can achieve, and that we can achieve not just once, but week after week after week. And that's really the importance of this particular lesson. So, you know, the last few weeks we've talked about our habits in general, how to set goals, and really how to set goals in a way that are going to move us forward as opposed to the up and down of yo-yos. You know, and again, really how to structure those, making this getting healthy a choice that we really want to move towards, as opposed to trying to get away from things that we don't like. And then last week we talked a little bit about controlling the energy that we're putting in our body, the fuel that we're bringing in. And so last week and this week are going to kind of go together, because the fuel we bring into our body also kind of it actually dictates what fuel we want to continue to put into our body. When we eat crummy and we eat bad, that's the food that we crave. When we start eating correctly, that's kind of what sounds good to us. That's what feels good to us, because we see the difference, we feel the difference. And when we're eating the right food, that's literally how we start turning off some of those automatic drivers that have driven us in the past. You know, our cravings, our emotions, and things like that. We actually, by eating the right food, we will actually learn how to shut off that well, down here, that insulin pump. That insulin pump is really what kind of pushes us and drives us to eat, whether it be good or bad. So putting this together now, really, I would say, with respect to those times when we've put forth a lot of energy to lose weight and not seen the results, and things just don't add up. Unfortunately, a lot of stuff, you know, we've been taught over our life that calories in and calories out are what is going to either lead to weight gain or weight loss. And unfortunately, that's not completely true. To a degree it is, but not completely, because the type of fuel we put into our body really determines metabolically whether our body wants to burn fat, or whether it would rather burn like our muscle or our sugars that we take in. Okay, that's kind of what we're talking about. And really, insulin is the reason why we either store or lose weight. Okay, so if insulin levels are high, and this is the honest truth. Let's say that you're only eating once a day, but that once a day you eat 90 grams or 90 carbs, 90 total carbs. That's enough carbs. Even though in any diet plan, 100 carbs or less in a day would be a very low carb diet. If you in one sitting ate 100 carbs, your body is going to kick out so much insulin. It's basically going to say, I don't need to burn fat at all. I've got tons of sugar here, so I'm going to shut off the fat storage or fat burning and go straight into, I just want this sugar. And so again, that's kind of what we're talking about. If we learn to keep our insulin levels down, what happens is we shut off that fat storage mode and allow our bodies to start burning fat as opposed to storing it. All right, so to understand this, here's basically understanding what food does when we eat it. Now, we've probably all heard of the glycemic index, and essentially the glycemic index is when we eat a food, how much does our blood sugar spike? And to determine that, they measure it against sugar itself, and they compare everything to what sugar would do. So if sugar is 100%, if we were to do something like lentils, which is a legume or a bean, lentils are 28% of 100, so their glycemic index is 28. All right, now there's no need to go and try and memorize all these things, but in Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health, there are some wonderful charts that give you some quick references for what those fuels do in our body. All right, now if we think of food as fuel as opposed to just what's going to taste good or what we like, we're going to start, that's one of those habits that's going to help us learn to start creating a different relationship with the food that we're eating. Okay, we're going to start to learn to eat for a result as opposed to, I just want that because it sounds great, or ooh, what's going to taste good for lunch, or what's going to taste best for dinner. All right, we're going to start learning what foods are, what's going to be the healthiest, and really what's going to serve us for our goals. The sad part about weight loss is this, and there are a lot of folks that they're like, oh, but fruit is healthy. They're eating more fruits when they're cleaning up their diet. And while fruit is wonderful for us and healthy for many, many different reasons, with respect to losing weight, it's a terrible thing for us. So there are a lot of foods that are great for us, but are terrible for weight loss because of what it does metabolically inside, okay? So if we can learn how to understand what that food is doing in us, it will make it to where we can learn how to control that insulin response. And this here is just, I'm a very picture kind of person. I like pictures. They help paint, really kind of solidify things in my mind. But if we're looking at our blood glucose here, so this here is, let's just say we had a big piece of pie, all right? We're going to get this huge spike in insulin and blood sugar. And because of that huge spike in blood sugar, our body, which this little dotted red line here represents, kicks out a ton of insulin. And because of that big mass amount of insulin, it drops our blood sugar very quickly, and even drops it below. This dotted line here is where we kind of don't want to drop below. It drops even below where we want it to, and this is where cravings start to happen. Because now, even though we still have a ton of calories in our body for our body to use, our blood sugar dipped low, so our body is saying, hey, we need to eat. So what do we crave? We crave some more food that's going to jump our blood sugar way high again. All right, that's the cycle that we create. In fact, this here is even a better image. And I'm sad to say that there was a time in my life when this was probably a very applicable meal to myself. All right. You know, when I was younger, and out of high school, I did construction, and man, I would start my day at 4:30 and 5 in the morning, and it would start with some cupcakes and a soda on the way to the job site, and then, you know, probably another something like that for break, and then cruddy takeout for lunch. And that is essentially, this is what was going on in my body. I would get these spikes, and we've all experienced this, you know, the blood sugar lows where you're, you know, that mid-morning slump, that 10 o'clock hour where people are like, oh, where's the vending machine? Where's my coffee? Where's my soda? I need something to jack me up, you know, 5-hour energy and all those different little teeny bottles that are on all the convenience store shelves, or for people that are eating the crap at the convenience store, and now they need something to pick them up an hour and a half later because their blood sugar has literally plummeted, and they're dragging tail because they don't have any energy to keep going. They don't have any sustainable energy. So this is what happens. And again, this is the type of diet that creates those cravings. All right. And with respect to losing weight and getting healthy, if you can't control those cravings, eventually you're going to lose. Because if you don't learn to kind of eat the right things to keep your blood sugar nice and even, what happens is you're going to have a crummy day at work, a stressful thing at home. Your kid's going to do something. You're going to get in an argument with someone or your wife, or something's going to happen that sets you off to where you no longer have the energy to resist the temptations or those cravings. You're just going to cave. So if we learn to keep our insulin levels low, that we're not battling the battle of these cravings. All right, we can shut that off, and this is kind of how we do it. All right, if we eat low glycemic meals, so meals that don't give us huge spikes in our blood sugar, what happens is we don't get, look at the difference in this insulin response as opposed to the page before. All right, that the next page, the insulin response doesn't even go as high as where this one starts. So if we can keep our insulin nice and low, we don't ever have these big spikes in blood sugar. We don't ever have these big dips where we're hitting those lows. So we really literally can shut off those cravings. We can shut off and actually have a lot more power to make better choices. Even when you're eating like this, it's not that foods don't sound great, pie or ice cream or whatever it is that you like, chocolate. They might sound fantastic, but you don't have the same chemical reaction going on in your brain that says, not only do I want that, I need that. All right, and tell me if this is, you know, maybe this has happened to you, because I know it's happened to me. How many times have you gone way out of your way to go get something like a root beer float or a pastry at some place because you're like, ooh, you drive halfway across town for something that sounds so good, and it literally is because of those particular things that we create inside, you know, in our minds and in our life. So the idea is when we learn to control our insulin and by the food that we're eating, we can be in much better control of our decisions that we're making and make better choices that are going to support what we're going after. So in really talking about the glycemic index, if you just look at the foods that you're eating just from the outside, and again, these are all charts and things that you can pull out of Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health. If you don't have that and you're participating, thank you for participating, but I would highly recommend you get Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health. It's a wonderful reference tool, and this you'll be able to refer back and forth from what we're talking about here to the book, and it'll make a big difference in your long-term success. So, you know, really we want to learn to eat more of the lowest glycemic, and then, you know, some of the moderate, and avoid as much as we can the high glycemic, but certainly not, you know, it's not to say you can't have those things. And these are just some quick references, and these are charts I took out of Dr. Anderson's book. You can find the same information on the internet. You can find out the glycemic index for just about anything. If you were to type it in and, you know, just search on the internet, you'd find it. But in general, you know, a very low glycemic is going to be under 30 as far as the glycemic rating. Okay, all of these foods here, if you look, oh, sorry, this is my pointer. So zucchini, spinach, peppers, onions, all these are wonderfully low. You know, GI index of 15 or so. Eggplant, carrot. Now carrots is a you got to be careful there, because raw carrots are not terrible on the glycemic index. But look here about cooked carrots. We go from a 30 up to an 80. All right. So we need to, not only is it what we're eating, but oftentimes it's how we prepare what we're eating. All right. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment here, but start to learn. I would be willing to bet that there's a lot of these very low glycemic foods that we all like really well in our salads and to eat just as a snack. We just need to learn to eat more of them. Some tips might be to, you know, like let's say you like cauliflower or broccoli or something like that. It's a lot easier to, if the broccoli is already broken up or the cauliflower is broken up into little pieces, to grab a few of those and eat them than if it is still in the big flowerette or something, you know what I mean? The whole head of broccoli or cauliflower. You know, we can have a tendency to be super lazy sometimes. So if you know that's you, break it. When you get it home from the store, break it up, wash it, break it up, put it in a bag, cut it up, and basically you'll be ready to have a snack anytime you need it. So just learn to start eating more of these super low ones, and then the ones that, and I'll tell you right now, there's not that these are bad, but they're certainly going to make it difficult for you to lose weight. This particular one, taro, I don't know why anyone would eat that anyways. I don't know if you've ever had it, but it's awful stuff. You know, over in the Hawaiian Islands, that was one of their staples, and it's like I don't know, a pasty, slimy. It's gross. So why he even listed that, I don't know, but I don't recommend it. So again, go through and start looking, get an idea of the vegetables and that you really enjoy. See where they're at. Find the ones that are going to be low, the ones that are going to serve you, and start understanding how those foods are going to affect your blood sugar and really how that's going to make you feel. Again, there's legumes, beans, things like that. Just understand where they're at. And then really beyond that, in fact, the next slide we're I think going to talk about this, how you eat them, what you eat them with, how you combine them with other foods can also make a difference in the way these glycemic indexes play out. So look at these, and again, there's a lot of folks that diet that say, oh, I went from eating my Cheerios or my Frosted Flakes, now I'm eating oatmeal. But if you take a look, you know, the oatmeal here, the steel cut oats, while these are very healthy, they're pretty high in the glycemic index. Even though they are healthy and good for you, they are going to give you a huge spike in insulin, so they're going to make it hard for you to lose weight. Okay, and I'm telling you, over the last 9 years that I've been health coaching, I have talked with hundreds of people that say, oh, I eat oatmeal every morning for breakfast. I eat healthy. And again, it's not that it's unhealthy, it's just that it's going to make it very hard to lose weight. Okay, does that make sense? So now look here. Look, actually, now remember, the more something is processed, typically the higher the glycemic index. You know, cornflakes here is up at a 70. Look at crackers, 80. So in fact, this is something for everyone to really take a look at. I mean, you look at this is something I fell victim to years ago. I was working out of town, and so I was bringing instant oatmeal with me, thinking, oh, instant oatmeal is going to be so much better for me than cereal or a pastry. Instant oatmeal is 82. That means it's 82% of what just straight sugar is. Frosted Flakes is better than instant oatmeal. All right, as crazy as that, look at that. Frosted Flakes, Cocoa Pops, all of these things are better than instant oatmeal. So you see how sometimes we think we're doing the right things and we're doing something very, very far from the right thing for what we're trying to do, especially with respect to losing weight. Okay, so these are a few things. We've only got a few more minutes here, but I want to wrap up by making sure everyone understands as we start, in fact, and next week, I think, no, last week we talked about it, and we'll talk more about it as we go through other lessons, but we talked about our 9-inch plate, how we have half of that 9-inch plate is our vegetables, a quarter of it being our protein, and then a quarter of it being those starches, or, you know, a healthy starch. Combining protein with carbohydrates and fiber that's in the vegetables, all fiber, protein, things like those two things in and of themselves will greatly help to lower a glycemic index on any carbohydrate. Okay, so there's a reason we do that. So make sure you have some protein with all of your meals. If you're on our program, that's all done for you. In fact, if you don't know about our program, make sure you ask whoever invited you about our program, because it simplifies this beyond anything you would ever imagine. Makes it easy. It makes it easy to get into a fat burn. Makes it easy to control the glycemic load on your body, and you will lose weight faster than anything else you can possibly use. But there's other things you can do. Vinegar, lemon juice, pickled vegetables are wonderful for helping to bring down the glycemic load of different foods. The way we cook things. Now, I lived in Italy for a time, and Americans are classic for overcooking pasta. Pasta should be chewy, almost, like very chewy. They call it al dente. All right, overcooking oatmeal, we're really good at that. Our rices, our oatmeals, all pastas, those should all be a little bit chewy. Okay, the more you cook them, the more sugars come out, the faster they break down. For instance, onions, when they're raw and fresh, are very low glycemic. But when we saute onions, what do we call it? Caramelizing. We caramelize the onions. When we really cook the onions down, we bring out the sugars. They get sticky. They taste great, right? Grilled onions are wonderful on different foods, but it's because we bring out the sugars. So overcooking things will always basically increase how quickly our bodies break it down. Obviously, the more refined the flour is, the higher it's going to be. So the more coarse it can be is going to be better. With respect to weight loss, however, you really want to kind of avoid these altogether throughout that weight loss phase. Avoid any of those grains and things, even though there's nothing wrong with them. On a health level, they're going to make it very hard to lose weight. And again, ask, if you have questions about that, make sure you reach out and ask us. Ask your friends or coaches, whoever invited you on this particular training. In general, this one doesn't pertain too much. Oh, here we are. This is what I was talking about earlier. Just visualize that 9-inch plate, all right? And if you have this, mostly your non-starchy vegetables, your healthy protein, and then your starch over here, that's going to be a pretty balanced diet for you with respect to the amount of protein and the amount of carbs that you're eating in one given meal. If you balance that out well, then you're going to greatly keep that insulin from your blood sugar spiking, and at the same time keep that insulin low, which is going to help make this simple and easy. Essentially, learning to do this puts you in control all the time. Okay, if you keep your insulin level managed and low by keeping your carbs down and keeping that response down, what it does is it's going to basically make it so much more simple for you, for all of us, to make good choices and to really not have to battle that, that little devil that sits on our shoulder that says, hey, the ice cream and pie would be so good after dinner tonight. It makes it easy for us to be able to say, you know what, while that sounds great right now, that's not what I want. I want to be healthy, and I want to work towards these other goals first. So, and like I was saying in the beginning, this understanding how and what insulin does in our body is really probably the reason why most of us in the past have tried things and been really thinking we're doing very, very good, but we're just missing the mark because we don't understand what the food that we are eating is doing to us and how it's reacting metabolically in our body. Because there's one thing to control, have the willpower in mind, and there's another thing for those natural drives. There are hormonal and literally physical drives and needs. And when our blood sugar dives really low, our mind says you need to get your blood sugar up. And our mind knows the food that's going to get our blood sugar up the fastest. And it's always going to be the things that prevent us from losing weight. All right? So if we keep that in mind, if we start understanding what this food is doing, this particular 9-inch plate, if you're doing this, you're not, that's going to always be a good ballpark to keep you in a healthier place. All right? It may, we may need to dial it in a little bit depending on if you're trying to lose weight or what your goals are currently. But as a rule of thumb, this 9-inch plate is going to keep you very healthy. All right? So this week, I always like to give an assignment. I want you to look at the foods that you eat regularly, the foods that you like. I want you to make a list, start knowing what those foods are, where they are as far as the glycemic load on your body and the glycemic index, and start learning where to implement those more and more regularly throughout your day. And next week, we will see you here again, and we will continue to share with you the different habits of health that are not only going to help you get to your goals, but it's going to make it to where it feels easy to do so. All right? It's going to feel natural for you to be at your healthy weight because it's who you've become, not who you're pretending to be. Okay? So thank you for joining us tonight. Please join us again next week. Invite your friends, invite your family, especially invite your family because they won't listen to you any other way, but let someone else bend their ears so you don't have to. And have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. We really appreciate you being with us tonight, and we've learned quite a little bit. Hopefully we can apply this in the weeks to come and get back on our journey. So thank you again. Appreciate it, Carla. Thank you for your 2 minutes of fame with your journey. That was awesome. So good night, everybody, and hopefully you'll be able to join us next week, same time, same channel. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.